If you're building a shelter or a home today, what's the first thing the building code tells you to buy? Insulation. You're told to wrap your house in pink fiberglass, spray its cavities with toxic foam, and seal every last crack with plastic vapor barriers. We've all been trained to believe that a house is essentially just a big styrofoam cooler, something designed to trap a bubble of air inside and keep the entire outside world at bay. But think about this. If the power goes out in the middle of February, that styrofoam cooler you call a home turns into a coffin. Modern insulation is a double-edged sword. It keeps the heat in, absolutely. But once that heat is gone, once the furnace clicks off for good, that same insulation starts trapping the cold. A modern, highly insulated stick-frame house has zero ability to store its own energy. It's completely dependent on a furnace running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to keep the air temperature from plunging. But it wasn't always this way. For thousands of years, humans lived in homes that stayed remarkably cool in the scorching summer and comfortably warm in the freezing winter. And they did it without a single watt of air conditioning, without a single furnace, and certainly without a single roll of pink fiberglass. They didn't use insulation. They used the earth itself. The method is called cob. It's an old word from Old English where cob meant a lump or a loaf. And it's important to know this isn't adobe. Adobe uses dried bricks stacked one on top of the other. Cob is built wet. Imagine sculpting a giant pottery bowl, a monolithic sculpture that you can actually live inside. This isn't some forgotten primitive technique. There are cob cottages in Devon, England, that have been standing for over 500 years. They've endured 5 centuries of constant rain and freezing winters, and they are still dry and comfortable today. So how does this work? Why should you stop obsessing over R values and start thinking differently? To understand, we have to talk about physics, specifically the fundamental difference between insulation and thermal mass. Modern construction, as we know, relies on insulation. Insulation is like a down jacket. It's light, it's fluffy, and its whole purpose is to create tiny air pockets that resist the flow of heat. It stops heat from moving from one place to another. Cob, on the other hand, relies on thermal mass. Thermal mass is like a giant stone that's been left out in the sun. It's heavy, it's dense, and it doesn't stop heat, it absorbs it. It drinks it in. And here is where the magic of a cob wall reveals itself. It acts like a thermal battery. Picture a wall that is 2 feet thick, made of solid compressed earth. On a hot summer day, the sun beats down on the outside of that house. A thin, modern wooden wall would let that intense heat punch right through in about an hour. You'd feel it almost immediately. But the 2-foot thick cob wall just starts absorbing that heat. It sucks it up like a sponge. The heat begins a very, very slow journey through that dense material. It travels so slowly, in fact, that by the time that wave of heat finally reaches the interior surface of the house, the sun is set. It's already nighttime. So during the hottest part of the day, the inside of your house stays cave-like and cool. Then, as the evening comes and the outside air drops, maybe even to freezing, that stored heat from the afternoon sun finally reaches the interior surface of the wall, and it begins to gently radiate into your bedroom, keeping you warm all night. This is called the thermal flywheel effect. The wall isn't blocking the temperature, it's time-shifting it. It takes the heat of the day and releases it at night. It takes the cool of the night and releases it during the day. It flattens the dramatic curve of nature's temperature swings without using a single watt of electricity. Now, maybe the best part about cob is that you cannot buy it at a hardware store. You have to make it, and the ingredients you need are very likely right under your feet. Cob is made of just 3 things: sand, clay, and straw. The sand provides the strength. It's the aggregate, just like the stones in concrete. The clay is the binder. It's the sticky glue that holds all that sand together. And the straw provides the tensile strength. It acts exactly like the steel rebar you see in modern concrete, weaving a fibrous web throughout the wall that prevents it from cracking as it dries. And to make it, you absolutely do not need cement. In fact, adding cement to a cob mix completely ruins it. Cement is not breathable. It traps moisture, and that trapped moisture will cause an earthen wall to rot from the inside out. Cob needs to breathe. The recipe will vary a little based on your local soil, but a classic mix is roughly 2 parts sand to 1 part clay. And you don't use topsoil. That dark, rich stuff has organic matter in it that'll just decompose inside your walls. You need the subsoil, that layer beneath the grass that is sticky and inorganic. To figure out what you're working with, you can do something called the jar test. You fill a clear glass jar about half full of your dirt, fill the rest with water, cap it, and shake it violently. Then you just let it sit for 24 hours. The different materials will settle into clean layers. The heavy sand will sink to the very bottom, the finer silt will sit in the middle, and the sticky clay will settle on the very top. This simple test tells you the exact ratio of what you have to work with. Once you have your ratio, you mix it. Historically, this was done by bulls or oxen stomping in a big pit. Today, it's done by you. You throw your sand and clay onto a big tarp, add some water, and you dance. You stomp it with your bare feet, folding the tarp over itself again and again until the mixture turns into a stiff dough. Then you sprinkle in some long-stemmed straw and you stomp it all again until every single strand is coated in that earthen plaster. You don't need forms, you don't need wooden frames, you just take handfuls of this mixture, the cobs, and you slam them onto your foundation. You knit the strands of straw from one lump to the next, smoothing it all with your hands. You build about a foot of height per day, letting it set up just a little bit before adding the next course. And because there are no straight lines, no rectangular bricks, you can actually sculpt your house. You can build beautiful curved walls, which happen to be structurally stronger than straight ones. You can build shelves, benches, and little nooks directly into the structure itself. The house becomes a single monolithic sculpture rising from the earth. But there is a catch. The one great enemy of cob is water. Not rain hitting the walls. Cob can handle rain just fine as long as it has a chance to dry out. The real enemy is rising damp from the ground and constant splashing water at the base. There's an old saying in cob building, a cob house needs a good pair of boots and a good hat. The boots are a stone foundation. You must build a stone or brick stem wall that lifts the cob at least 18 inches off the ground. This stops moisture from wicking up from the earth and protects the base of the wall from snow and rain splatter. The hat is a roof with wide overhangs. You want eaves that stick out 2 or 3 feet, acting like a giant umbrella to keep the majority of the rain off the walls. If you give your cob house good boots and a good hat, it will outlive a modern frame house by centuries. And now for the ultimate application of this material, the rocket mass heater. If you combine a cob house with a wood stove, you can create the most efficient heating system ever devised. In a normal house, you burn wood in a stove, the air in the room gets hot, and most of that hot air goes straight up the chimney. You're literally heating the sky. In a cob house, you build a horizontal chimney. You bury the exhaust pipe of your stove inside a massive bench made of cob. You run all that hot smoke through the heart of the bench before it's allowed to exit the wall. The cob bench absorbs almost all of the heat from that fire. The smoke that eventually leaves your house is barely lukewarm. All of that energy is now stored in tons of dense clay and sand that make up the furniture in your living room. You can burn a small bundle of sticks for just 2 hours, and that cob bench will continue to radiate heat for the next 24 hours. You can sleep on the bench. It stays warm all night long after the fire's out. It heats you like the sun heats the earth, through gentle infrared radiation, not by blowing dry, dusty hot air around the room. Critics will say that cob is illegal or that building codes won't allow it. That is changing. In the U.S., the International Residential Code now has an appendix specifically for cob construction. It is finally being recognized as a legitimate engineered material. But even if you can't build a whole house just yet, you can start small. You can build a garden wall, a chicken coop, or a wood-fired pizza oven. The technique is identical. We have been sold a lie that a house is a product you buy, assembled from factory-made sheets of plywood and plastic.
We have forgotten that a house is something you can create, something that grows from the landscape itself. Modern insulation degrades over time. Fiberglass settles and creates cold spots. Foam off-gasses toxic chemicals and eventually crumbles. The plastic vapor barriers trap moisture and create the perfect environment for black mold that can destroy your lungs. Cob gets stronger with age. It regulates humidity naturally. If the air is moist, the clay walls absorb water vapor. If the air is dry, they release it. No mold, no rot, just earth. So stop buying the pink fluff. Stop trying to live your life inside a plastic bag. Look down at the ground beneath your feet. The materials to build a fortress that will last for 500 years are right there. You just have to be willing to get your feet dirty.